I know. This is why we booked this room.
Here, let me
Because
grab
the
that.
technology is awesome for a
Thank
Zoom
you
panel.
very much.
I heard they did a major upgrade to
Ouch.
the sound system or something.
Well, and check this out.
I
So
know I'm taking 150 next semester.
I'm gonna put on the,
I don't know if I love the environment.
oh, it is tracking. So was it tracking where it was like
I
zooming
have
in
that
with
teacher right now. Is it? Oh, the photography guy? Yeah. He's okay. I just.
It's pretty cool. And then here's like.
Also seems
You're
pretty
talking.
It seems harder than some of the other classes. It seems like it would be like good skills, you know.
No.
Yeah, I know Tate took it over J2. And he said, I think he liked it. I think he said he wished he had more time.
Oh, there.
Yeah, oh, 'cause it's not.
And that could be one of the benefits.
Oh, but
of
it's
taking
really
it
hard.
over.
Oh, there, now you can
Do you
see.
see yourselves
Like a
now?
normal semester as opposed to.
'Cause that's the rear cam.
But I don't know. Like might be more work than normal
Yeah.
semesters.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And so there might be some.
Oh, I don't love that.
Oh.
That's funny.
It depending on
It would sit that way,
who's
right?
got the link. Usually it's, I mean, sometimes students ask for it, but usually it's just faculty. Because we really try to get them together, but yeah, you're right. And we'll know. up
Yeah.
there. And Rachel will track. So if there's somebody.
I think
who
they were
wants to
really
ask a
excited.
question From who's on Zoom, when we get to that point, she'll text me and let me know. So. To go.
I think.
I was thinking of taking it. Is
No,
it
I'm
the
thinking maybe-
globalization one? Yeah, one of my friends is in it.
So you
I know.
have.
And she says that the
Okay.
professor is kind of tough. The environmental change is not an actual
You're like, okay.
The ones that the spring side, like the
They
urban.
put it, all right, well, let's
I know.
keep it informed.
But I don't know. Yeah.
Are you guys okay with the
Why are all the good ones?
Yeah.
Like, it seems like that's what I've heard.
Right, and if you are, it's fine.
Like I'm not. So you already took photography. So yeah, that's like the only. Well,
Hi there.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's pretty cool.
Can I ask
Like,
everyone to
It's
sort
kind of a lot of work, but it's
so
so.
close up here, just so that we can get,
See where the camera is? You don't,
that's the camera, and we
you
just.
would
don't
recommend
have to,
it
right now
if
it's
you're, like,
tracking
into that
close
sort of
and
thing.
we zoom it back out. But, but ideally you're all there so
Yeah,
that when you,
I declare.
so that they can see you guys.
Wait. I'm a. So I think I'm gonna do geography.
Thank you.
You're gonna add psych? Yeah. Because I've already taken 4 psych. How many do you need? Just. Just. Yeah.
If there's that.
Isn't geography like 8?
Yes, hi
I
Garo.
think it's also.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You also gonna do geography?
I don't know, yeah. Deciding between environmental policy and environmental studies.
Yeah, I know.
Welcome.
Oh, that you can see only over here.
Well, right now.
Hi,
Bill. But I might actually like English.
Thanks for
Hey,
joining
Bill.
us.
I don't know.
I was
Wait,
definitely.
Oh, you are? Yeah. That's good.
I don't think I know. Hey, Bill. Long
Are
time
you
no
also?
see.
Yeah.
Is everybody signing in?
I know. I just kind of hopped
I
on
must
the
get
bandwagon,
them, like,
honestly. Yeah.
Did you get into the dining? I heard the faculty can go now.
Feels weird to be in our class. Like I don't know anyone who goes around. There's like one junior,
You got an email?
a couple others.
Yeah.
I could go to the dining?
Yeah, do you
Feels
want
like
to
it's
come
fun.
with me sometime? Okay.
Globalization. In global environment, yeah.
Or any faculty can make it.
I
I have
don't
talked to
know.
like 2
um,
people,
Lorraine
that's
couldn't
you
make
and
it.
Lily. Yeah.
Gunther said he's doing it remotely.
Oh, good.
And I don't know about Pete.
Yep.
Jess.
You know, he has office hours. You can just drop by.
That's great. It's done to
I've seen
share.
him so many
He
times,
has.
even on
I
accident.
know, he's been worse.
Yeah.
Hasn't been.
So cute.
almost
Can I
every
get
day.
pictures of the true? I wonder if you go back. Who's gonna take it? I think he said P. His kids ended up going having like, I don't know how many. He's gonna go from having so many. Oh, like in 5. Yeah, in 5. Yeah.
This is where we're glad that it's not quite as nice as it was earlier today. Because I'm not sure how many of you might have come if it was not raining just a little bit. I know I would be tempted to like go for a little longer bike ride or whatever. Exactly.
Oh, look, hi, it's Hannah.
Bill,
Hi, Hannah.
how are ya?
That says John Twiss. Oh,
That is
Oh,
weird.
there you go.
Okay.
That was
Hey,
funny.
Bill.
Oh, it is.
Wait. Okay,
Wow,
that's
you're labeled as John. Hannah. Oh, maybe it'll go.
Wait.
All right, now we'll get
okay.
rid
There's
of us.
Anna and there's Anna.
So I'm gonna remove.
Where are you, Hannah?
Hannah, I'm in Lake Tahoe, California.
Oh, yeah,
wow.
because I knew that was
That's
snow
so
and
weird.
that wasn't South.
Yeah, we got some
Snow
Snow last night.
Nice.
Oh, wow. Oh, not what we want to see here, but that's okay.
That's-
We're
Oh,
glad
I
to
want-
have
I want
you.
I-
That's amazing. Look at that snow. Oh,
Wait, John, can you just say something? I want to see your box.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Oh,
there
Oh,
we
there
go.
we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, Hannah's box is not showing. It's showing up with your name.
And then
Yeah.
lights up when, that was weird.
Yeah, I see that too.
There it goes, there it goes.
Do you want me to jump off and rejoin?
I wonder if maybe it was just like,
No, I can just rename it.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
It's
so
Hannah,
funny.
right? Hannah.
Yes. thank-
There you go.
That's Rachel, you guys. You can't see her. But she's
All right, well, maybe I'll just start with my announcements while maybe a few more filter in, but we've got all our panelists, so we'll dig in. I just want to check our camera. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of this on and off, but I'm gonna have it off as much as possible so we don't cover up Anna's face when she comes back on. But this is so people can see, so the panelists can see Bill, so they can see you when you're asking questions. So I'll be doing a little bit of camera work, and I apologize if it makes you busy as I pop on and on, I'll try and move it in there. But anyway, hi, I'm Amy McGlashan, and I work in the Center for Careers and Internships. And part of what I do is what we call academic outreach. And basically that's working with our academic departments to help talk about the value of your liberal arts education and the value of the different majors that we offer. And in a way where you don't think about this linear path between major to career, and that really, no matter what you major in, you will, you have a path to success and can pursue any particular path you like. And this is why we bring alumni back by major to tell their stories of how they got from their major to the many different directions that they've gone. We do this in a number of ways. I don't know if people have seen our major guides, and this is where we have on the front page is what's the major about and what are the learning outcomes for the major that are right on their website. And then on the back, how do those learning outcomes translate into, I should just take one, professional competencies? So how do the skills and learning goals of a geography major translate into things that you need for your as you think about careers and where to take them? And then there's a list of internships and jobs that geography majors have pursued. And these are really, they're just snapshots, and they're really more useful for when you like go home at Thanksgiving and people say, well, what do you do with a geography major? And you can say you can do anything with a geography major. And here are just some of the things that Middlebury alumni do. One of the reasons why one of the benefits, let me turn that camera off so we don't cover up Anna's face, there we go. One of the benefits of doing these is, in addition to hearing the alumni stories tonight, we also offer the one-to-one chats tomorrow morning. And what I want to say about this event is, I think what you'll take away from it is, it doesn't matter what you major in. That's the whole purpose of our doing these, is that you should pursue your major based on what you're interested in. And then you'll find that there are many paths to wherever you might want to go. And the alumni are available, Hannah's not, but the other three are alumni available tomorrow morning for very informal one-to-one chats. I know some of you have already signed up for some, and that's great. But we bring the sign-up sheets here so that even if the whole point is, you don't have to necessarily even be interested in what they're doing for a career. they just might say something interesting about their path or about their time here that make you want to continue that conversation. That's why they're making their time tomorrow morning for you to talk with them. So feel free to sign up for a slot. You don't need your resume. You don't need to have a canned speech. You don't need to be looking for a job. You just want to continue a conversation. That's especially because they're not here in person. And we used to do these where they were always in person. And so this is your way to be able to continue the conversation. Now, I'll also say that we have mid to mid. Have people heard of mid to mid? Awesome. So mid to mid is the way to continue the conversation with our alumni and the other 5,000 plus alumni who are on there, and especially a way to connect with Hannah after tonight, since she's not available for the one-to-one chats. But really, I think all 4 of you, yes, now, are in mid to mid, or if not, they will be. But I think they are. That's our nudge. So that's another way to continue the conversation. That's our alumni database, where you can do searches for alumni based on your interests, based on geography, based on major, whatever, and continue those conversations. The other thing I want to just say is we have, tonight is the field guide for geography. Obviously, we have a number of different paths or industries represented that may or may not have anything to do with geography. I mean, I think what you'll learn from the stories tonight is, to some extent, it's all about the major, and to another extent, it's got nothing to do with the major. And I say that so that when you see another field guide, even if it's a major that you don't, it's not an area of study you think about, still pay attention to who's coming, because it could be that some of the people coming for the panel are interested, path that you might be interested in. So next week there's geology alumni, and then the following week are Chinese language and literature majors. So just take a look on the website, the same website where you signed up for tonight, and just look at the bios of the people who are going to be on those panels. And maybe you want to sign up for a one-to-one chat with them. You don't need to come to the panel. It's just, again, they're all here in a different way for you. So that's my pitch for alumni, part of what we do with alumni engagement in the Center for Careers and Internships. That's all I really have to say, unless Tracy, you want to add anything, or?
No, I guess the only thing I'll say is that my favorite part of my job as the social impact advisor is getting to know you now as a student, and then watching what our alumni, what you become, and then inviting you back.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you how much fun it is knowing and seeing some familiar faces up there. So don't be surprised.
Right, and we were just talking earlier because Tatsatom used to come to these when he was a student, but we've been doing it for that long too. That's the other thing. But I'll say, having done these now for several years, and I've probably done over 50 of them of almost every major, and I have yet to be tired of listening to our fabulous alumni who have amazing wisdom to share. So with that note, I will stop and turn it over to our moderator, Bill.
Okay, so maybe just to make sure, I don't know
Yeah.
if the
You wanna see
panel
what
can
they're
see
seeing?
me or how it works.
Yep, where do
Is
you,
Is that
so
okay?
now you're seeing what they're seeing.
Oh, that's pretty big.
But you can, if you want to sit in that chair, it'll zoom in on you,
Oh, well, I don't want to be the center of it, but I do want to.
but so that they can see. There we go. How's that?
Okay, that's
Is that
just
good?
fine. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna turn
So,
that off so we don't cover
well,
up Anna.
I just a couple quick words. Hi, I'm Bill Hegman, and I know most of you, but if you don't know me, I'm in the geography department. I haven't been around that much this semester, but I'm around now, and my job has always been the GIS specialist and then teaching fellow, but I also work on internships and special projects and things like that. So I also have been coordinating these alumni panels, and I want to say that I have this really long list of alumni, and I get very excited with this list because there's so many great people, and so I'm really excited to have you four here today. I just love seeing people again and catching up, even if it's by Zoom this time. But so thank you for taking the time to do that. And I think I just wanted to mention a couple things. That the way this will work is that we'll let it's fairly informal. We'll let the panelists tell themselves a little bit about themselves, tell you a little bit about themselves, and then And then there'll be some follow-up questions that we have written down here, but I might skip around on a few of them, and then we'll open it up to questions, Q&A, and let you all ask some questions. So, and I'll try to leave plenty of time for that, so that that's the best part, I think. So, but today we have, as you can see, Anna Clements teach from 2012, and then Tatsatom Goncalves from 2019.
Although he just disappeared, but he'll be back.
Yeah, and then Hannah Judge from 2012.5. And then John Twiss, who was in 1998, graduated all geography majors, or geography and some other major. But so what I'd like to do is just, I think I can probably, can you see me okay? Okay.
Awesome. Great.
I think I just want to start, if we could, with if you would all just introduce yourselves, take a few minutes to do that, and then tell us a little bit about your current employer and your occupation and basically what you do, and then a little bit about what you've done since graduation at Middlebury, and maybe some of the pivotal points to getting you where you are now. So I guess we can just start with Tatsatom, if that's okay.
Sure. Well, thanks everyone for joining and for the invitation to participate. Good to see familiar faces. So my name is Tatsatom, as you can see from the screen. I am originally from Brazil, born and raised. I came to the US basically for college. Had never been to the US before, actually, before that. And double majored in environmental studies and geography, switched around a little bit before that, but I like the combination of the data skills as well as more qualitative skills from the majors, and studied Chinese also throughout my time at Middlebury. And so I graduated about 3 years ago, and I have been with the same employer ever since. I was started at the World Resources Institute in DC, which is a think tank. We like to call ourselves a think and do tank now, because we outgrow our initial role of just a research organization to actually do work on the ground too. And started out in what was under the cities program that did kind of urban sustainability, smart cities kind of work in their building efficiency accelerator program, and was there as an intern for about 6 months, after which I ended up staying full time in a different team at the energy program, where I focused mostly on renewable energy, still a little bit of energy efficiency, but mostly renewables. And ever since, my work has been split about half and half between US and international work. So in the US side, I mostly work with local governments like cities, counties, tribal governments, to help them achieve their goals for 100% renewable energy or any similar kind of target. So helping them navigate their renewable energy market, the procurement process, which I'm happy to geek out about, but I'll spare you for now. And then at the international level, I mostly work on the context of East and Southeast Asia, so Indonesia, Vietnam, China, and India, helping corporations in that region do the same thing, basically. And that's a little more challenging because those are often highly regulated markets, and it's a little more restrictive in terms of options they have to actually fulfill those goals. So I'm currently based in New York after 2 years or so in DC. I'll stop there.
Okay. Maybe I guess we'll go across the top. John, would you?
All righty. Well, thank you very much for having me here. It's a lot of fun to be here. I grew up in Virginia and went to Middlebury. I was supposed to be a Fed, but broke my back working on a sheep station. So wound up joining in September. When I graduated, I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. But as a student, I'd done a program called Sea Education Association. And one of the mates that I sailed with, she needed crew for her first trip as captain. So I signed on and sailed around for a couple of years. While I was doing that, I was, really excited to be doing that, but I was always thinking about the future, and I wish I had sort of just enjoyed the moment and not worried so much about a career, because the career, at least in my case, just sort of happens at a certain point. I've loved airlines since I was a 5-year-old, and I don't think I'd be in the corporate world otherwise. But eventually I began to settle down after doing things like working on a farm in Italy for a year. And I realized I wanted to settle down when I was having trouble paying for Starbucks coffee. I was living in Maine, substitute teacher, had a painting studio, and I loved airlines. And I began to slowly work my way into like a position where I could be doing something that I wanted in the airline industry. I joined Continental Airlines, went through the merger with United. On the side, I picked up improv comedy where I met my husband, and I got a job over in Scotland. And now I'm with a new startup transatlantic airline called Norse Atlantic, where I handle our airport relations, and as of a couple of weeks ago, our field procurement. Yeah, and I live in Hudson, New York right now.
Okay, thanks, John. How about Hannah?
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Before we go any further, Bill, is that Hugo in the room, or is this another dog?
No, it's it's Tracy's dog.
It's
Okay.
Chewy.
Cute.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was maybe you don't remember, but there was a summer in which Anna and I were
Oh, right.
I don't even remember.
And it with Augie, was it Augie?
Yeah, it was Augie. It was Augie.
Yeah.
Sorry, not Hugo.
Yeah.
Augie. Yeah. Anyway, so one outcome of my geography major is that I fell in love with Bill's dog when we were seniors and interning at Middlebury one summer. And I now have my own golden doodle who you may see like coming in.
Yes, I did see running across the back.
Okay, yeah, I'm Hannah. I was a Feb 2012.5. I grew up in Boston and spent a lot of time in Vermont growing up. My grandparents lived there, and had always been really excited about Middlebury. And then I moved to London with my family when I was in high school for a couple years, and I went to this I went to a school that required me to take geography, and I was like, this is so lame. I don't want to take geography. What is this? I tried to like take ancient Greek instead because I thought that would be more interesting. And my dad convinced me to take geography, and it was mostly like physical and cultural geography, like how, the sort of different shapes of cities, how they form around like, thoroughfare routes and things like that. And I was obsessed. And so then when I was applying to colleges, I was only looking at ones with geography departments, which, as most of you probably know, are kind of few and far between. And so, yeah, ended up at Middlebury already with this interest in geography. And I took a couple classes and confirmed, like, yep, absolutely, this is what I'm interested in studying. And I was also super involved in global health. I was there when we were spinning up the minor, and really involved with Globe Med. And so I was taking a lot of classes related to that. And Anna, my compadre, who is she keeps getting kicked off the Zoom link, which is why she's coming in and out, but here she is again. She and I were able to do some like independent studies while we were at Middlebury around like the application of GIS specifically for public health. And what started out as a J-term independent study with Jeff Howarth became a like John Isham, we did an independent study with him, tried to spin up a business model, and then we got some funding from Middlebury to do this like pilot project of this idea of using handheld GPSs and phones to collect geographic data and make maps for community health worker programs in developing countries, where we could make these maps and try and figure out, what is the best location to put a new health facility, so people who need to get there can walk as far as possible, as least far as possible. And so we graduated from college and ended up actually pursuing Broad Street Maps full time, Anna and I. And we did that. We got some funding from a couple different sources, ended up moving to, we worked in restaurants full time as well, which is also a big part of my professional journey. And ended up in Seattle doing this accelerator. And anyway, that was like a big part of our Middlebury geography experience. Ultimately, we shut down Broad Street Maps after about 4 years, but we did some really amazing projects, and it was an incredible sort of introduction to the professional world. Now I work at a company called Mapbox. I've been there for 6 years as of next month, and I am a technical account manager. So my job is, Mapbox is a company that builds developer tools to build location experiences. So we build APIs and SDKs and web maps to help power location experiences for all sorts of different companies that don't want to use Google for one reason or another. And companies like the New York Times, if you're looking at those maps, or if you use Strava or AllTrails or Tableau. And my job there is to help launch our customers once they become our customers. So they sign their sales contracts, and then I'm responsible for making sure they implement successfully. And I'm currently working with our automotive customers. So I've been working on this like very long implementation with a big German auto car company. And that's my job. I live in San Francisco.
Cool. I don't know if we still have it. Oh, there's Anna.
Hi.
All right.
You
Anna.
would think after like 2 years of remote working that I could figure out Zoom, but I guess not. So hopefully I can get through at least my introduction. But also Hannah gave a really great introduction, I would say, to our shared experience of being geography majors and global health minors at Middlebury, and then sort of the first phase of our career, which was all shared, doing Broad Street Maps and working in restaurants together. The same restaurants. It was a lot, yeah. So we stopped doing that in 2015. And I've had sort of a circuitous journey to get where I am now, but now I work at an organization called the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, where I lead our corporate partnerships. So the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, if you're not familiar with it, we utilize OpenStreetMap for humanitarian projects and development projects in 5 different sort of focus areas. So that is climate resilience and disaster reduction, gender equality, public health, smart cities, and then displacement and safe migration. So I've worked there for almost 2 years, and yeah, I mainly interface with our corporate partners. So we have a lot of corporate partners, Meta and AWS and DocuSign and Okta, a bunch of different kinds of companies. And we either work with them through like a volunteerism program, where basically their employees contribute to OpenStreetMap, and then they can sort of count that as a volunteering activity. And then with some of the more technical partners like Meta or AWS, we're utilizing some of their technology to improve map data around the world. And I live in Chicago, although right in this minute, I am in Louisville, Kentucky at my parents' house, which is where I grew up.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we still have Tatsatom, or is that? I can't quite tell.
Back? I don't know why, I know it's.
I don't know what's going on. We're dropping people, but I can't tell if he's there and just not. He might be gone.
Yep, I'm around.
Oh, you're around, okay. All right, everybody's there. Well, I have some follow-up questions and they're in no particular order, but so I think I'll just start with the first one and let people, let you decide. If you want to answer it, you don't have to, but happy to have you. So I just wanted to ask, sort of can you tell us a little bit about what skills, knowledge, or disposition you learned as a geography major have translated effectively in your career? So in other words, like analytical skills, critical thinking, problem solving. What are those skills have really translated and helped you? What skills you learned at Middlebury? Anybody? I don't know.
Well,
Hannah's looking like you're okay. Tatsatom.
I'm smiling because Tatsatom unmuted.
Well, I think I'll probably start with the one that everybody was hoping to mention. I've used GIS at multiple points in my job. It's not the main thing that I do, but it's been a useful skill to have for various projects. I have used it most recently to help. So for example, we support various local governments who are running what are called Solarize campaigns, which are basically when a community-based organization or local government gets a deal with a developer to install rooftop solar on residential buildings across the city at a discounted rate within a specific timeline with a deadline. And then they run a campaign to actually get members of the community to sign up for the deal and get solar installed in their buildings. So we have helped 15 or 20 of those governments create those campaigns, but historically those campaigns tend to target mostly affluent or middle and upper income communities because house ownership, you always want to talk to the house owners when you're installing solar panels. And so there have been efforts to kind of expand and be more inclusive in those campaigns. And as part of that, all the cities have been very interested in actually seeing spatially how the efforts have played out and which census tracts have gotten the most signups. How does that compare with demographic indicators? And so I've been dishing out dozens and dozens of those maps over the past few months. So just one example of how the skill came in handy. And we otherwise would need a full-on GIS expert to tackle this, or someone who has had a lot of time to spare to learn it. So that's one. And I think otherwise skill that got really ingrained in me with GIS was to be very organized with my files, because otherwise things go haywire. And that has proven very useful in many aspects of my work.
Thanks.
I can relate to the file organization, although can.
Hannah, can you say that again? Hannah, or it was file organization, is that what you said?
Yes, I can relate to the need for file organization.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the number one thing that I was thinking about is, so Jeff Howarth was my GIS and cartography professor, and I remember we talked a lot about, like, as we were, trying to solve some of these problems, like what is the definition of done before embarking on that process. And that is something that I think about like countless times every day in the work that I'm doing. And so I think the approach to problem solving and like breaking things down and really, getting yourself organized before diving in is something that I really feel was a big takeaway for me from the geography classes that I got to take. And the other one is, I remember like I really loved the cartography classes that I took at Middlebury as well. And the concepts of like the visual hierarchies and sort of the importance of clear communication and signage. I also have a vivid memory of Jeff's like some PowerPoints of like terribly confusing signs, you know, and that was like, we really loved that. So I think that I think about that though a lot in the work that I'm doing, especially in relation to like user design and user experience when I'm working with some of our customers and thinking about how to communicate, you know, how do you tell someone that their map is ugly? That is a big part of using some of that language and like those concepts to not only gently make suggestions, but also like, or like provide feedback in a critical way, but make suggestions about how things could be better. And so that's like a very concrete skill that I gleaned from that. Yeah.
Thanks, Hannah. John, you have any thoughts?
I have 4 sort of things that I took away. One is like the critical thinking skills. If I had believed one of our professors, Timmy Meyer, when she would say your brains are actually being reshaped by all these different ways of thinking, I probably would have gotten ahead a lot farther, a lot faster. But I did not believe that was the case. And now out in quote unquote the real world, I find that the ability to think about a problem differently than most people will from an interdisciplinary approach is really, really critical to do that quickly. And then the other piece is when I was at Middlebury, I think we had the lowest GPA, and some people were upset about that. But by senior year, we kind of learned like, hey, don't work for the sake of the grade, work for the sake of the work. And right now, I'm part of an airline we're racing towards startup. And rather than trying to sort of work to look good or like run a department well, it's like, let's work for the sake of like making this like fun. We're going to work hard. But we're not as attached to sort of the equivalent of like the grade. We're just like, we're there to do it rather than like achieve a shiny grade. And the other thing is GIS is, it's someone who got, I think, a 37 on the midterm and then was one of 8 students to finish the final. I am a huge believer in GIS, and it's something that now is just starting to catch on in the airline industry, and we're using it to do everything from flying our planes in a different way where we're surfing the winds rather than burning as much fuel. We're flying at different times of the day and night, and we use GIS more and more, and we're going to be pretty hungry if we're successful to get people who actually know about GIS in the door.
Cool. Anna, do you have anything you?
Yeah, I think something that Hannah and I talked a lot, or like have always talked a lot about, is the ability to like translate really complex information and turn it into something that a wider audience can understand. And I think that's something that we got from the geography major, like looking at whether it was like a complex problem in GIS in that class, or like other aspects of geography, but like taking that information and figuring out when there are more technical aspects to it, how to communicate that effectively to other people who maybe aren't as technical. And I think that that's something that has served me really well throughout my career. So right now I'm my work is sort of split between like pretty traditional philanthropy, like fundraising for the organization that I work for, but then also a bit of like project management and account management with our partners who are running these technical programs. So, and I'm trying to raise money for these programs. So a lot of what I have to do is sort of communicate the value of why maps and open geospatial data is important in these issue areas, and get people to like believe in it enough to write a check to the organization that I work for. So I think being able to really concisely present that information, whether or not that's just, again, translating like why open data and maps are important, but also like using visuals to communicate that information as well, is something, yeah, that I definitely took away from the geography major and that I use all the time.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure there's more you have to say about Middlebury and the major and so on, and we can come back to that. But I have a question that I wanted to ask you. Can you tell us a little bit about the steps you took to get your first job? And how did it get you in the door? How did it lead to what you do now? And did what you learned in your major play a relevant role? So that's 4 questions, but any combination of those. But tell us about that, getting your foot in the door. Doesn't matter where we start.
I'm happy to go. I failed an awful lot when I left Middlebury at sort of trying to live like a normal life, and I was kind of more into like adventuring and seeing the world, which I'm a huge believer in. I think it will shape you in ways that you can't really imagine. But when I began to look for my first job, I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely none. And there were so many, like, I experienced a lot of rejection from like, oh, a lot of friends were doing banking and I just wanted to join an airline. And it wasn't like, it didn't come together easily. And that's where like the good perseverance that we learned at Middlebury was pretty useful. And then once I began to figure out actually how to get a job, like how to actually show up for like in an interview process and all that, it got a lot easier. But it was like it's kind of like learning like a whole new subject is how to apply for jobs. And I wasn't ready for settling into like a normal 9-to-5 job at all. When I left, I was definitely up for adventure, and that's what I did. And then slowly things began to fall in place, but I was pretty impatient. So when you're leaving school and you're like, oh man, this is going so much worse than I expected, I would just say like, hey, that's totally, at least in my case, that's totally fine. And that's totally normal. When I began to get serious, I focused on my resume and things like that helped get me in the door. And once I was in the door at Continental, I began to network. And when I was at Middlebury, I was not really into networking, but I would say like what you're doing now is so awesome. Like if any of you reach out, that's great. Oh, and that's all I have to say on that.
Thanks, John. Anybody? Any other?
Anna, start.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Hannah, do you want to take this or should I?
No, you start. You start, I follow.
Yeah.
We've never had the pair on before like this. This is good. Watching you do your thing.
This is our specialty
Done this
at Middlebury
before.
College. Yeah.
Yes. And I would say we had a really unique path. And my one, like, I'm happy to sort of dive into like how everything happened, but I think that like my biggest takeaway would be that, yeah, if you want to do something that's not sort of like part of the traditional path and you have that idea at Middlebury, then there's so many resources at your disposal to like tap into all these different like programs and honestly like money and funding while you're at Middlebury to then like go after what it is that you want to do. So Hannah and I decided I always kind of forget the timeline, but we were taking all these geography classes and GIS classes, and a lot of the sort of use cases or case studies that we were looking at were all centered around, like environmental use cases, I would say, which is very interesting. But Hannah and I had this like super focused lens around global health and public health. And so one of the first things that we did was just decide to do an independent study with Jeff Howarth. So I think that's like that was, I would say, one of the biggest things that we did while at Middlebury, and like taking advantage of that independent study program and basically being able to design I think we first did it as a J term and then we did it again in the spring semester, I think. But like really that independent study concept can be an incredible tool for you. And then, we got some funding and did basically a proof of concept over the summer, right before our super senior year. And then in our super senior year, we worked really closely with Jeff and Bill and the team from the Center for Social Entrepreneurship, took like any classes that were sort of entrepreneurial related and basically came up with this idea. And then our initial like seed funding, it was not very much money at all, but it was small amount. But when we graduated, it meant that we could do our first project with our first client, who was based in the Sacred Valley of Peru. And so, well, I guess it was technically our second client at that point, but to go there after college. But all of that like initial support and resources and money came from Middlebury, which is really amazing, and gave us the ability to sort of like launch ourselves into turning this into a business. Although I would say that was the main downfall of our business, was that we never really cracked the code on how to get nonprofits to pay for these kinds of services. So yeah, we just kind of like did it our own way. And, I think we had a non-conventional path, because then, we moved to Boston, and like Hannah said, we like immediately had to get jobs in restaurants to basically fund our lives, and did that part-time, and then did Broad Street Maps, the like part-time to full-time that could fill that out. So it was definitely a lot of work, but also super fun, and we got to work. We're still best friends. So there's hope for everybody out there who starts a business with their best friend. It can work out. But yeah, Hannah, fill in the gaps that I missed.
No, I mean, that's a great coverage of, that was our first job. I would say, I guess the one thing I would add is like, how did it lead to where we are, to where I am now? And this is like, oh my God, I feel like this is like a perfect story for this event. But in our Place in Society, is that the name of the class? That class, there was a guest speaker, and his name was Dane Springmeyer, and he came and gave a talk on all this amazing work he was doing in Haiti with OpenStreetMap and mapping in the wake of the earthquake, and mapping resources and helping facilitate like emergency services from afar. And I took his business card at that lecture. There was a guest lecture, and I remember like calling my mom afterwards and being like, I know what I'm gonna do, like this is it. And I, in my true type A fashion, squirreled away the business card. And then fast forward to Anna and I had moved out to Seattle, and we'd like talked to this like journalism corporation into giving us this like selecting us for this project to build a web map. And we emailed Dane and was like, Dane, would you be willing to meet with us? We heard you speak and we were like, really, we think you live in Seattle? Like, would you be willing to get us coffee and talk to us about who we might be able to connect with in mapping in Seattle? And Dane worked at Mapbox and ended up like helping me get the job that I have now many years later. And so I just think that's like the thread of he really helped us with Broad Street Maps, and then also it was a big mentor to me in helping me get that connection and work at Mapbox. So, and the one other thing I would say is in terms of like how did it lead other jobs, the restaurant job, talked about this a couple of times, but I'm telling you, I was like shocked when I got to Mapbox and was working on this on the implementation team, and I have a portfolio of customers. I'm responsible for like managing them and helping them do what they need to do. And I, was like so excited to be working at this other mapping company. Felt like I'm coming in with this like, I was a geography major. I have these like mapping skills, and it definitely helped me. But I'm telling you, customer service and like the things that I learned in working in the service industry for 10 years, I still like use that all the time. Like those muscle memories of, how to tell someone they're wrong without telling them they're wrong, like things like that. And so I think that spirit of that is like, you can't fall off the path of like finding your job, and it's, I think unexpected experiences ended up being some of the most meaningful, like skill building things for me. So, yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks, Anna. Tatsatom, can you have anything there you want to add?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I feel like everybody has took a different approach to this. For me, my path was defined a lot by the fact that I'm an international student on a student visa. So a lot of people said, just take your time and, do things you take your time to figure it out, or travel some. Unfortunately, if you accrue more than 90 days of unemployment in the US as an international student, you're kicked out of the country. Or if you stay, you and ever leave, you're never coming back. So that put me on a, extreme search mode my senior year. And I think junior year, I was still struggling to find out how all the things I was interested in combined together. That's when I took a lot of my GIS classes, a lot of my major geography major classes. And then I ended up going to study abroad in China my senior fall, which is obviously very unusual. That was just the way to pack all the things I wanted to do in. And that was also combined with an internship I had at the Nature Conservancy in New York City with various aspects of urban sustainability. And things kind of came together. This interest in sustainable cities or energy at an international level kind of started merging together. And amidst some of my research while in China on renewable energy, I ended up coming across WRI's research on greenhouse gas emissions and renewable energy, and thought the publications were always very good, very high quality, very science-based, and great visualizations too. So I came back to the US that J term and applied to a number of internships they had lined up for the summer. It was actually one of the few places I applied. It was very targeted and mostly internships, because I still had a limited amount of work experience. So I wanted to kind of dip my toes in different things before I settled for something for sure. And yeah, I ended up getting a few interviews and with this position that I really liked. And ended up following that path, and had a few other interests as well, but those didn't pan out so much. But once I was in the, I think I started my job July 1st. So just a month after graduation, I was down in DC, and was great to be in DC before the pandemic because there were all of these conferences, all of these people you could meet very easily. Had a great 9 months before everything went down. And it was great to get a broad scope of exposure during that time. And eventually, I think I decided that energy, given its importance to the climate challenge, was really the field that I wanted to focus on. And I started reaching out to the people in the energy program, some of the leadership at WRI, to just put myself on their radar earlier than my last week on the job, and also explore what some opportunities were. And eventually, I think I was making a good enough of an impression, but the real pivotal moment was when there was nice chunk of funding, prospective funding coming down the pipeline with a corporate donor, and we were supposed to put together a concept note or an idea for a project. And as part of that, they asked me to put together a case for including a case for energy efficiency in these 5 Asian countries to achieve climate goals in 4 pages in 2 days. So I crammed a lot of hours in that, and I think I think that speaks to something that's very valuable, not just in where I am, but in many places, is your ability to research a topic and be able to make executive decisions on what to include or not based on the information, and put together quality work in good time. And soon after that, the opportunity for a full-time position came up. So it's been, I guess, pretty linear compared to a lot of people. But I've had the chance to actually, didn't need to dip my toes on a lot of stuff. I ended up finding what I liked pretty early on in the process.
Thank you. Well, I want to open this up for questions in just a moment because I want to leave enough time for that. But there's 2 questions I really want to ask, but I'm going to ask one of them and then we'll open it up for questions. And I wanted to ask you, how has your major influenced your life after graduation and who you have become in ways other than professional? Like, for instance, how has it influenced your understanding of the world, your life choices, etc.? How has geography influenced you like that? Anybody? I can tell you have something, Hannah.
Tatsatom came unmuted first.
Yeah, I guess this is a chicken and egg situation. What brought you to geography and what geography took you to? But I think I am still very spatially driven. Whenever I'm in a new place, I'm always the one doing the most research about what's around, what the landscape is like, and become an avid travel planner, doing a bunch of research every time I go to a new place. To the displeasure of some people, I guess, sometimes. But I think that curiosity to learn about a new place in a geographical sense, is very ingrained in me, and I think it was partly what drew me to geography. But I think geography still makes itself present in that habit very strongly.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think I feel like it's such a big part of my life after graduation. I mean, I work at a mapping company, so there's like always that moment when people ask me, like, you do what? You make maps? And it's like, oh, what did you study? Geography? Like, whoa, okay, I guess you like really like maps. So that is definitely a big part of my identity. And I think like, you know, it's interesting to hear from John and Tatsatom too, like the exploration piece is something that really resonates with me, like traveling and exploring, not necessarily, I mean, internationally for sure is like, was a big part of the first phase of my career, but, and like what I'm interested in outside of work, but also like, getting outside and like planning trips and doing a lot of hiking and like using maps and geeking out on that and planning trips with that. That's a big part of me. And I think that it also, you know, like two kind of meta things. One, the whole like place and space thing. I think the concept of place is like a big part of my life, like building community and like something that I really try and prioritize and like think about how important that is to me, especially when I'm weighing it against other things. If I'm like making a big decision. And then, you know, I think about like even the moment that we're in right now with the conflict in Ukraine, like reading things and understanding like, you know, all of the reasons for a conflict like this. And like, I think it was the Prisoners of Geography book that has, or not, maybe it's like 10 maps that change the world or something. Like there's the concept of understanding like how the physical landscape of Eastern Europe plays into a conflict like that, among obviously many other things. But I return more regularly than I would have expected to those concepts.
I'll jump in because I definitely thought Hannah was going to talk about like how many times and mainly, well, no, I'll say our map, like geography skills have like helped us in adventuring situations, like whether like this, you know, going on like a backcountry snowshoeing trip and like getting very nearly lost in a like whiteout snowstorm, and then us being able to like get us to the place, like actual real navigation skills, and like a lot of, you know, I think that, yeah, Hannah, she saved our lives. She really did. And that is, yeah, I feel like we've been in like a couple of those situations where I think just like map literacy is less of a thing now. And so like knowing how to like pull out a paper map and utilize it is a skill that we've used actually quite a bit. I will say most people expect you, like really want you on their like, you know, what trivia team, because they think that you can like name all the capitals, or that you'll like really, and that's the place, that's like, that did not give me a life skill because I'm not very good at that. So, but yeah, I mean, I think curiosity about places is a huge thing, like willingness to like learn about new places. And, you know, I've had to move around the country since graduating, like, you know, 7 different cities. And I think just like willingness and openness to exploring new places is, something I'll always credit to my geography major for sure.
Thanks.
And I would just like add curiosity is like to what everyone has said is like they've all said, curiosity is really great, a sense of adventure. And then there's something that's kind of intangible that I just call sensing in, where you sort of sense for what isn't necessarily obvious, but you just kind of sense that, and you begin to, at least I begin to follow like, oh, wow, I'm being drawn this way. And rather than like, oh, I should be doing this or whatever, I'll be much more inclined to take that risk. And, you know, I see a lot of my fellow geography majors on Facebook, and I see a lot of like the other Middlebury students on Facebook And a lot of the geography majors are off doing pretty wild things with their lives that I would say are like adventurous, non-traditional, interdisciplinary, and yes, usually involve maps. Like I compulsively draw airline route systems and plan out airline route networks for fun. And I worked with a Middlebury student for a J-term project to design a airline network transatlantic forecasting model. And that kind of stuff is what geography, like I took away from geography. It's just like, oh, this is interesting, I'm gonna do it. Here I am. So.
Thanks, John. Okay, well, I think it would be good to open this up for some questions, and we'll just go from there. I mean, does anybody have a particular question they'd like to ask? Don't be shy. Please, I think you can. I think they'll be able to hear you. Just speak up a little bit.
Okay. Hi, I'm Will. My question, I guess, is for anyone, but you guys have touched on this several times, but geography definitely isn't like a mainstream major. A lot of people haven't heard of it. There's a lot of misunderstandings about what it is. It's not just being able to name country capitals or things like that. So I guess I'm just curious, like how you've kind of navigated that in kind of hiring processes, and maybe like if people misunderstand what a geography major is and like the skills you bring, how you've kind of worked around that.
I've had multiple people think that I studied geology.
Yeah,
I don't know if that happened to
happens
other
all the
people.
time.
Next week.
Yeah.
Anytime I see a resume with geography, I'm like, hell yeah. I like instantly just want to talk to this person, because regardless of whether or not they're a good fit in my area, they're probably really interesting, and they might be a good fit in a different part of an area or a different area of the company I'm in, or they might be a good fit for a friend who's off like doing something totally different in the world. And what I found is it's kind of a neat self-selection process as well. When people understand geography, they're so much more receptive and excited to see you. Like they're just like, whoa, let's talk about this. And it can be like a really validating experience, only because geography majors do around the world tend to march to their own drums much more than many other majors. And that's not trying to knock any other major. It's just like, I get so excited when there's a geography major. They're out doing something.
Yeah, we're not going to knock the other majors, but obviously we haven't. One of them is the best, but I think that so this isn't. I've never really had to explain because I have been in this space for my career, but I will say, like, if I see that someone was a geography major when I'm doing a hiring process, I get super excited, same as John, but I really don't look at people's majors. And I maybe that's not the point of this, but I think it's like important to say, like, follow what you are interested in, because it's all about like telling your story when you're trying to get a job, I think, and explaining how what you're interested in has led you to your interest in this job. And like the CTO of my company was a studio art and philosophy major, and now he runs all of the technology and product at Mapbox. And I think that like always strikes me, I think especially I work in like the tech space, and there's a lot of pressure, I think sometimes of like, oh, like, well, you have to have done computer science and something like that. And I think that era is, it's different now or something. Like there's a lot less pressure on what did you do and how did it prepare you, more just like tell me what you're interested in and why that makes you a good fit for working with me, So be a geography major, but also do what you're excited about. My take.
Can I just, oh, sorry, Anna.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
No, yeah, go ahead. I mean, I can say something too, but I don't need to.
I will wait my turn because I have already.
No, I was gonna just say that I feel like this is, you know, it kind of depends on like what kind of job you're applying to, but to me, this is maybe like a question that's not actually so unique to like the geography major at Middlebury, but more just to like the concept of a liberal arts degree. Again, I think it's like dependent on what the job is that you're applying to, but I think that, yeah, as Hannah said, like crafting sort of your story and really communicating like why you want to work at the job that you're applying for is such a big thing. And I think there's so many times when I'm looking at job applications where like the person doesn't even really tell me like why the role is interesting to them. And I think like just being able to like communicate, that story in a compelling way is one of the most important things. And if you can weave the geography major into that, that's great. But I think it's more just like being super authentic with the roles that you're applying for. And I think part of that is making sure that it's actually something that you want to do and not just like a compulsory activity that you're just, trying to apply to as many jobs as possible, even though sometimes that has to be your strategy too. So.
Thanks, Ann. John, did you want to add one thing?
I did. Amen to authenticity, by the way. Like, it's so refreshing when someone shows up that's just like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. When also, I would say when you're out looking for jobs, if people don't seem excited by geography or what you're doing, that may be a really good cue that, hey, this place might not be a good fit for me. And that happened to me. I was interviewing at an airline in New Zealand, and I had gone all the way down to Auckland. And I walked in the door and I'm like, good gravy, what did I walk into? And you could sense like the low energy. And at the time I was like, oh, I really wanted to live in New Zealand. My life is ruined. But the reality was this was a terrible fit for me. And when you get that sense, just be like, okay, this is what the universe, I wouldn't say, I don't want to tell you what to do, but one way to look at it is this is what the universe is saying. And just go with that and don't take it personally.
Thank you.
One last quick thing for me for me, I think in trying to actually make the case for the geography major to people who are not super familiar with it, one thing that helped me a lot was the portfolio that, which class was that? JS for environmental science and management, I think. The professor had us put together a website with a portfolio of our projects. And that's a pretty quick way to have someone just click that link and get a glimpse of all the many things that geography can mean, not just, the usual stereotypical things that come to mind.
Other question? Anybody else have a question? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sam. I think this question is mostly for Hannah and Anna. I'm also a geography major and global health minor in GlobeMed. And I was just sort of curious about your guys's experiences and classes you took and things you were interested in that sort of led you to your project of building your company and ultimately being in that that space where geography overlaps with public health.
I'll let Anna start because she works most closely still in that field.
Yeah, I think, well, thinking about our time at Middlebury, it was a really fun moment in time when we were at Middlebury because the global health minor was like just starting when we were there. And so there was a lot of good energy, I would say, just like on campus, and GlobeMed had just started. So actually, Hannah and I did, we have like our entire, we have so many shared experiences, but one of them was that we did like the internship with GlobeMed in the summer of 2010. And then we both did a study abroad program in India with SIT, a health and human rights program. And then we, really, I think we were really jazzed up about the like GlobeMed and the global health classes that we were taking, and saw so many like potential applications for GIS and mapping in those classes. That's where we just like approached Jeff and Bill and really took advantage of the like professors in the geography department to say like, hey, how can we kind of explore this with your help, but sort of on our own, which was it was amazing that they were so receptive to that and open to that. I also think like combining like your different interests. So like we also did basically some like independent, I don't think it was coursework, Hannah, when we did the like project with Svea Klosser, we worked with one of the professors in the global health department, but doing like a GIS project with her for like a research paper that she was working on too. So I think also like going the other way and bringing the concepts that you're learning from geography into that other minor or double major or whatever it is that you're working on. And I think just being really open to like asking people for help and really digging into and exploring all of the resources that you have at your disposal. Hannah, anything to add?
I would say that's so cool that you're doing that. Love to hear it. And so many exciting things. I just have like really vivid memories of realizing that intersection was something that could not only be this like super exciting intellectual exploration area in college, but that there's like a lot of things that you can do with that combination upon graduation. And I would say two things, like, definitely the using the opportunities to combine those things when you have like, the coursework or but I like on our SIT program in India was public health and human rights, and like I wrote my independent study on like the use of maps for formalizing slum communities in India. And then in my first internship at Partners in Health, I worked on the communications team and was like, you know what you all need? You need some maps. So I like wrote like a research project on like how maps could be used for like marketing, and so it was, I think, just kind of exploring like how people respond, like doing things that are interesting to you, but also making those opportunities. I will say the one thing I wish I'd done at Middlebury that I think is relevant for this intersection is I wish I'd taken a computer science class, and I wish that I had taken a little bit more of like some of that practical. I ended up taking, after graduating, like a JavaScript class, and for me, it was something that was like really frustrating when we were trying to do Broad Street maps, was like I could do the GIS, but like, and maybe I don't know if this is now part of the major, but like I couldn't write a script to like make a web to put it in an interactive, like on a website that I wanted and that we really wanted to do that. And so that was like one thing that I explored after graduating that I wish I had known that I like wanted to take advantage of when I was in school.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, the one other thing really quickly, because I know we're up like coming up against time, is just that specifically for like public health and geography, that when we were graduating, also part of the reason that we just decided that we needed to do broad street maps was because we weren't finding any like job opportunities in this like very specific niche space. And I will say that in the past 9-10 years since we graduated, the space has really exploded. I mean, my job is a perfect example. Now the organization I work for is like 100 employees globally, where when it was only in 2015 that they had their like first paid staff member. So that's, 7 years, and they've experienced this tremendous growth. And then a lot of the big sort of funders in the global health space have also really come to embrace GIS and geography as well. So there's a lot more opportunity to actually like go out and apply for a job at an established organization or government agency, whatever it is.
So we have time for another question or so. Anybody else have something they want to ask? Yeah. Well, I'm sort of, I think you covered quite a number of the questions I had. I guess maybe we've already covered this, but I want to ask you one thing here. So what advice do you have for the geography students as they think about and prepare for their future? Do you have any sort of thing that you'd like to tell them? You may have already told them, but.
Last year.
I can jump in. And I think this is something that's been said, and maybe you hear it all the times, and it's, but my advice would be that like the journey of your career, as I've experienced it, is not so linear, right? Like I am now in this incredible place where I'm working at the intersection of all these things, and it's like come together in this really great way. But yeah, I graduated from Middlebury 10 years ago, and I think there's a lot of, I've worked at, I did like innovation and policy work at Planned Parenthood. I worked for like a tech startup that was doing corporate philanthropy, doing software sales. So there's all like I would try and release yourself from the pressure of like trying to figure it out right away. Like, of course, like just, release yourself from that pressure. Like things will fall into place at some point, but it might take time to get there. And that any job that you have, whether it is working in a restaurant or like taking a job at a law firm right after graduation, like, depending on what it is that you need in that moment, that like with any job, it's mostly about I feel like your attitude and your outlook, and you can always pull really relevant skills and then use that as you transition into a new job. I've made a lot of transitions in my career, and I know that that's also something that I feel like historically has been discouraged or looked down upon, but it's all led me to this place where I feel like, okay, it's been 10 years, but it's like kind of now finally all coming together and falling into place. So yeah, just trust the journey, I guess. Yeah.
Thanks, Hannah.
I think one thing I would advise is, at least in my case, I, while at Middlebury, kind of obsessed, as you should, probably as a geography major, over GIS, but a little bit to my detriment, I think, of thinking that, it was hard to look past it as a future career opportunity, because every time you bring up GIS in Middlebury, people are like, oh, that's super useful, that's going to be it's great that you know it, and it is, but there's a lot more opportunities that you can use apply geography skills and the skills you learn at Middlebury too. So there are a lot of very creative and very even surprising ways in which you can transfer what you learn. So I wouldn't fixate too much on any particular path, unless you're really into that path, then go for it.
Thanks.
I think my advice would be, when I think about coming out of college and entering the professional world, I put so much pressure on myself. Like I had this feeling, I still have it sometimes, like I only have one shot to prove myself. And like, what if I mess it up? And then like, everything will be over. I like had this like constant sort of fear of not being professional enough, like failing, like not being taken seriously. And I think that a big realization for me is that we call this like imposter syndrome at work, where you like feel like everyone else around you like gets what's going on and you don't. And I still feel this, even though I've been at my job for 6 years, I feel it from time to time. And I think like I was so nervous. It sounds cliche and simple, but like I was so nervous about making mistakes early on. And I think if I could like give myself one piece of advice in retrospect, it would be like to try and lean into the mentality that I have more now, which is like, the only thing I know is that I am definitely going to make mistakes. And like, it's not about like doing everything perfectly, but just like figuring out how to be, the type of coworker who like helps get you out of the woods when you're making a mistake, and like that is really, people aren't looking for perfection. They're looking for people who are, fun to work with and bringing something unique to the table. And yeah, that's my advice.
Thanks, Andrew.
There is so much awesome advice that resonates with me, from following one's passion, trusting the journey, going easy on yourselves. Like you definitely don't need to hold yourself, as Anna is saying, to like perfectionist standards. It's, I would argue, sometimes not the healthiest trait of Middlebury, at least when I was there, was like we were holding ourselves to really high standards, and we got out into the real world and we're like, oh my gosh, this is actually quite different and I'm not measuring up. And I spent a good bit of time beating myself up. And once I sort of began to go easy on myself, things fell into place really quickly. One thing I found really useful at Middlebury, and someone said this earlier, like, oh, if I was doing things over again, there was a time management counselor at Middlebury, and senior year I was doing 5 classes. It was not a good senior spring. That's the kind of thing that I wish I had like thought of like freshman or sophomore year. To make things go better. Anyways, that's for me.
All right, wow, I think that's a good way to end it. So I think we'll leave it there. And but thank you all for taking the time today and talk to everybody, and thank you for coming. And John, I just wanted to say that I had dinner with Teeny last night, and I think that the students still love her, but they're all still petrified of getting a 37.
Oh,
I was gonna say,
fail with pride is what Timmy taught me. Like, take that F. Like, it is A-okay. That may be the wrong thing to say. I don't know.
We'll do, we'll take
Thank you very much. 3 of you are around tomorrow, and I think some students have signed up for.
Yep, and there's
For
still, if
seconds,
you
so-
want to talk to Anna more about her process, now's the perfect time, but again, you can find them on Mapbox.
And,
Yeah, thank you again for your
yeah.
time as you launch an airline and everything else that, we're really grateful for your time.
Yeah, and thanks again. I love y'all, and I hope you can see you soon.
Yeah,
Person.
wish we could have been there in person, but thank
I
you so much
know.
for putting this on,
Yeah.
and it's so fun to hear about your all's experiences too. So
Yeah,
The next best thing. And Hannah, Anna, Tatsatom and John, I will get Rachel will be in touch with your schedule, showing you like your first appointment and stuff for tomorrow, before
Perfect.
either late tonight or tomorrow morning. Okay,
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, looking forward
Okay.
to it.
thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
really.
Two more of those.